Combat engineers are the Swiss Army knife of the military. Need a room cleared? Call the engineers. Need a road swept of IEDs? Call the engineers. Got something in your way that you don't want there to be anymore? Well, who do you call? The engineer. Combat engineers are a seriously misunderstood asset because of how versatile they are. Combat engineers, or Sappers, are the United States Army's 12 Bravos and the USMC's 1371 MOS. Actually, in the Army, they're just referred to as combat engineers. Sappers are combat engineers that have completed the Sapper Leader course at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and are authorized to wear the Sapper tab. First of all, if you don't solve all your problems with det cord and C4, then you can sit down and shut up. Second of all, if you want to play that game, then the term sapper is actually derived from the French word sapir, which is derived from the French verb sapir, which means to undermine or dig under a structure, causing it to collapse. I don't know if I pronounced those right. I speak American, and Google Translate couldn't bail me out on this one, so we're just going to roll with it. Now keep in mind, these guys are not just a one-trick pony. While the infantry are hanging out waiting for orders, combat engineers are out there pounding pickets and prepping charges. Oh, got an obstacle in your way? These guys will casually drop 1,750 pounds of C4 on top of it. Need some more hate rained on the enemy? No problem. These guys can shoot Bradleys too. Don't want to send your vehicles down some sketchy road? Too easy. Combat engineers are itching to find some IEDs. I've been doing this for about 12 years now, and I still haven't figured out why combat engineers are so nonchalant about explosives. They will literally play with C4 like it's Play-Doh and make figurines out of it. If it's your first time hanging around these guys, you'll panic a little and tell them to stop, only to be met with the phrase, "Oh no, don't worry. It needs heat and pressure to detonate. We're good." Seriously, these guys are more concerned about accidentally using the wrong knife to prep their C4 with than they are about it blowing up in their face. Because in case you didn't know, ingesting C4 will make you crap your pants like you wouldn't believe, which is why 12 Bravos carry two knives, one for prepping demo and one for everything else. You don't want to cut open that MRE with the wrong knife and risk a significant emotional event in the Porta-John later that evening. If I haven't driven the point home by now, there is a crap ton, no pun intended, things that combat engineers can do. These are the guys you're going to call to enable your units to conduct mobility, counter-mobility, and survivability operations. Now, what does all that mean? Now, bear with me in a second while I put on my staff officer hat. In a nutshell, mobility means we need to move to the fight. Counter-mobility means we want to prevent the enemy from moving the way they want to. And survivability means we want to give our trained men and women the best chance at surviving a barrage of enemy fire. Sounds complicated, so how do combat engineers accomplish all that? Typically with a lot of brute force, a little dash of crazy, and they wrap that all up nice and tight in C-wire and demo. Wire is only half of the combat engineer's toolbox. They also love demo. Cratering charges are right up there with the gas chamber for tools that will clear your sinuses out in a pinch. If you've never heard of cratering charges before, it's a tool that 12 Bravos use when they need to cut off a road by blowing it up. Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole! Because that checks out, even Mother Nature isn't immune to a disgruntled E4 pounding her into submission. Now, contrary to popular belief, the infantry aren't the only ones with cool HUA schools to go to. There are also specialized training opportunities for combat engineers. The most well-known is Sapper School, which is the combat engineer version of Ranger School. Now let me be clear, Ranger School is considered the tougher of the two since it's 62 days of starvation versus the 28 days of Sapper School. Now if you've never heard of Sapper School before, it's where engineers go to learn advanced troop leading and tactics, expert level demolitions, and mountaineering. But Sapper School isn't the only special training engineers can go through. Like most MOSs, they can attend airborne and air assault school, along with more specific engineer courses to include Urban Mobility Breacher course and EOCA. EOCA, or Engineer Explosive Ordnance Clearance Agent, is basically the brainchild of the Army when they didn't have enough EOD techs to meet the overseas demand. They looked across the whole of the Army and realized that no one but the combat engineers are crazy enough to get close enough to unexploded ordnance and deal with the problem. So they created the EOCA course, which now officially qualifies combat engineers to blow up stuff that they've more than likely already been blowing up without Big Army knowing about it for the better part of a decade. But maybe teabagging IEDs and shaking hands with the devil isn't your thing. I can respect that, but maybe blowing things up from a distance is. Well, don't worry, combat engineers got you covered there too. Heavy Track Course, or Bravo 6, is where 12 Bravos learn the art and science of utilizing the Army's Armored Bridge Launchers and the Armored Breacher Vehicle, or ABV. Now, if you've never heard of the ABV before, I've made an entire video about it, but the Cliff Notes version is this. It's basically an M1 Abrams tank given a facelift and remove the main gun to make room for 2 bays full of 3,500 pounds of C4. Now, speaking of vehicles, 12 Bravos are authorized to utilize a dizzying array of vehicles. Instead of listing them all here, I'll instead discuss a couple of my favorite. The M2A3 infantry fighting vehicle or the Bradley. Yes, these vehicles aren't just for the infantry. Engineers and armored brigade combat teams use them too. Equipped with the 25mm main gun and tow missiles, this beast carries a squad of pissed off 12 Bravos into the breach with all of their lane marking equipment and up to 500 pounds of explosives stuffed between their knees of the dismounts. Better make sure you wear that ballistic groin flap just in case. The ABV. I don't care if I've already mentioned it, it's my video and I think it's awesome. The Husky VMMD. This thing looks insane for a reason. It's designed to detect mines and IEDs using advanced sensors and imaging equipment. It was literally designed to blow apart when hit by an IED. Not only does this give the vehicle the highest blast survivability of any vehicle in the Army's fleet, but it can also be rebuilt and brought back into service relatively quickly. The Buffalo. If the South Africans are an expert in anything, it's designing vehicles that are hard to kill. The Buffalo is based on the South African Caspier mine-protected vehicle. It weighs 56,000 pounds and is designed to get up close and personal to IEDs after the Husky finds it. It uses an interrogation arm to dig up the IED, and in case something really goes bad, it can take a damn hit. But defense isn't the only thing combat engineers can do. Often combat engineers work alone away from the infantry, so they have to be ready to fight. In addition to their basic M4 rifles, many 12 Bravo units are augmented with the M249 SAW, the M240 Lima, the M2, the Mark 19, the M26, the M320, the M110 DMR, the M2A3 Bradley, and the Javelin. Yes, in addition to the yearly engineer qualification tables, these soldiers also have to qualify on all these weapon systems as well. You seem to have a hard-on for combat engineers. If you love them so much, why don't you become one? Yeah, okay, I admit it. I'm a little biased. I do have big love for 12 Bravos. When I joined the Army, I had one singular goal: to deploy as a commander of a combat engineer unit. Somehow, the stars aligned and I got my wish. Granted, it was just a rotation to Kuwait, so I never got to hunt IEDs like I wanted to, but whatever. I got my wish and I loved every damn second of it. Guys, I've been blessed and I've had the great fortune to serve with some of the craziest, best trained, combat-hardened 12 Bravo NCOs the Army has ever produced. These NCOs beat me into the ground and forced me into the leader I am today. So yes, if I'm coming off a little bit biased towards my love for combat engineers, it's because I am. Now, if you like this video, consider liking and subscribing and check out my video about the ABV. CT6 out.